Well, Eric, it's good to see you here in your own house again. And we know you've been a faithful member and indeed an elder in First Moneymore. So we just thought, as part of this anniversary service, we would ask you if you would maybe recount or share with us a couple of your memories of times past in First Moneymore, Eric.
Well, certainly I can remember quite a long time, even just before the war. I remember the day war broke out. And it was a Sunday too.
Yes.
And I was going to church with my father, and I had two sisters, but they were at Sunday school, but I was younger, and I hadn't started Sunday school there. We were going to church, and my father, it was in First Moneymore, and we were walking down to church. This was where I was born in this house.
Yes.
So we were walking down to church, and my two sisters were already at Sunday school, you see. And the war had been declared. And there was a man called Bob Rankin who was a member of the church. And Bob had a shop on the main street. If you were going down towards the Orange Hall, on the left-hand side,
Yes.
There was a pub, and then there was his shop, Rankin's shop, and Bob was he was an old soldier too from the First World War, and I remember him overtaking us. I would have been going a bit more slowly than my father, and he overtook us. And he said, I always, funny how you can remember things, I always remember him saying, Charlie, we didn't do the job right enough the first time, and it'll have to be done again. That afternoon, there was a terrible thunderstorm. And when I was young, I was afraid of thunder. And I put it down to the fact that my mother's cousin lived down on Stonard Street, just nearly opposite
Yes.
First Moneymore.
Yes.
And she had an old aunt who lived with her, a maiden aunt, and she was very fussy old woman, you know, and she was very dictatorial and kept us
On your
under
toes.
control. But she was afraid of thunder, too, a thunderstorm. And whenever there was a thunderstorm, they had a cellar off their house and under the road, going down opposite First Moneymore. There was and all those houses down there had a house or a cellar under the road.
Right.
And if there was a thunderstorm, she took us down into
Cellar.
the cellar, and then she prayed
Right.
that the thunder would go over, you see.
Yes. One other wee question, just Eric, in relation to in the church in First Moneymore. You were telling me recently that there was a tradition in times past that people used to stand up to do their praying, and then they sat when they were singing a hymn.
Yes.
And then in First Moneymore, whenever that changed and it became the tradition to stand for the hymns and sit for the praying,
Yeah.
but there were still one or two families who maintained the status quo, isn't that
That's
right?
right,
So
that's right.
just tell us briefly about that as well.
Well, whenever the prayer was announced, then these people would stand up.
Yes.
Well, the rest of the people sat down. And gradually those older folk died out.
Yes.
And at the end there was only one man left, but he continued to do that.
Last man standing, as they say.
He was the last man standing. In the early days, of course, there were the two churches too, and they weren't amalgamated in those days.
Yes.
But First Moneymore always had a bigger congregation than Second Moneymore.
Yes.
And people had usually got a pew for the family, but some people didn't. There wasn't enough pews to go round, so people who hadn't a pew were up in the gallery.
Yes.
But they had their name down, you see, and it was. And when another family went away or died, or there was a vacant pew,
Yes.
then the next person and the next family in line got that pew. And that continued. That was still, when I was young, that still continued. But then it gradually died out after that. They stopped having pews.
Yes.
And people just, and although the people who had a pew still continued to go to that pew.
Yes.
But eventually then, and the pew that we had was on the graveyard side. And 3 seats from the back.
Yes, that was in the key pew.
That was in the key pew. But then later on, people gave that up, and everybody just went. And if you went early, you had the
You got your choice of
wherever
seats.
you wanted to go.